We'll try to get back to it. But here's basically a useful snippet again of information about this group. We're talking about the Congregation of the Sons of the Most Holy Redeemer, also known as the FSSR based on their Latin name. They're commonly known as the Transalpine Redemptorists or the Sons, for short. They're a religious group that was canonically elected for the church in the Diocese of Aberdeen and based on the Papastronce monastery in the Orkney Islands, Scotland, as well as in the city of Christchurch, New Zealand. They were formed in 1988, Ecclesia Dei, as a traditionalist offshoot of the Redemptorists, following a monastic rule based on that of St. Alphonsus Liguori. And they were formally built up as a religious institute in 2012. So they're as a religious institute on par with the FSSP and those kind of groups. They are relatively new. The order received an apostolic visitation at their New Zealand site, conducted by Archbishop McGuckin, who's an Australian, not to be mistaken for Archbishop McGuckin, who is an American. Two McGuckins, two different bishops from two different parts of the world. We're going to go back in time a bit for some context. So we'll go to Cath News for this piece here. Let me see. Of course. Again, having the internet crash on you when it's not your fault tends to really destroy things. But here we go. So the headline from Cath News, which is an Australian outlet, Vatican orders investigation into New Zealand Catholic group. This is a very, very vague report that they're going to give you, and that should not surprise you. This came from last fall, right around Thanksgiving in the United States. And I do remember reporting on this group before last fall. But they are facing what sounds like serious allegations, but here's the thing. All traditional groups subject to apostolic visitations always face serious allegations. Serious allegations are the pretense for shutting down these groups. They always have been and always will be. But the article succinctly lays out the allegations for us here, and it does so in the vaguest terms possible. So here, let me tell you what they say. See if you can make sense of this. Quote, the emeritus bishop, McGuckin, has been sent to New Zealand to interview complaints as a representative of the Pope. The move follows a months-long News Hub investigation where 17 people spoke of their concerns about leaders of the group, known as the Sons of the Most Holy Redeemer. Bishop McGuckin, a canon law expert, will interview various parties linked to the Sons of the Most Holy Redeemer, including those who left the group citing serious concerns. The Sons, also known as the Transalpine Redemptorists, is run by Fathers Michael and Anthony Marie. The investigation revealed concerns about their teachings and manipulative behavior, claims they interfered in family life, and that multiple unauthorized exorcisms, including on young people, were carried out. The leaders deny any wrongdoing. They now face international scrutiny in a move initiated by new Christchurch Bishop Michael Galen. In a statement, Bishop Galen said the Holy See has appointed Bishop McGuckin to investigate. I sought the guidance of the Holy See, Bishop Galen said, end quote. So, was any of that clear? No, not really. Interfering in family life, I don't know what that means. Does that mean that there was some kind of counseling where it clearly made it apparent that in some family there was some dispute going on where one person was clearly in the wrong? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that because they never tell you. They never tell you if this is actually anything really dangerous going on or if they are simply being shut down. It all sounds kind of vague. And also, what do they mean by unauthorized exorcisms? And their teachings, what do they mean by that? It's all very, very vague. But that's the point, actually. Traditional priestly fraternity did something vaguely bad in the eyes of Rome and the eyes of the laity here. And now we need to shut them down, and shut them down they did. One of the fastest ways you can get a priestly fraternity shut down or kicked out of your diocese is for an organized group of laity to come after them. And that's what happened here. Now, a few days ago, the Bishop of Christchurch issued a public letter warning the faithful about these priests and announcing that they were being told to leave the diocese immediately, and it doesn't get any more clear here either. So now will you go to that letter, which I have here for you from his own website, dated the 13th and 14th of July, just 3 days ago. Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, I am writing to update you on the Vatican investigation into the Sons of the Most Holy Redeemer and their ministry in the Dutch Christchurch Diocese. An investigation, formerly known as an apostolic visitation, was conducted by Australian Bishop Robert McGuckin. He subsequently provided a report to the Vatican for its consideration. As a result of the dicastery for institutes of consecrated life and societies of apostolic life, the Vatican department overseeing the investigation recently sent me a series of recommendations. I have accepted those recommendations. I am therefore taking the following actions. One, I am removing the faculties of the priests of the sons of the Most Holy Redeemer to exercise sacred ministry in the church in the Christ Church Diocese effective midnight on Sunday, the 14th of July, the day after issuing the letter. Any ministry its priests carry out after that time will be unauthorized, and liturgical celebrations will be illicit. That is outside the rules of the church. Still valid though, just not canonically legal. All professed members of the Sons of the Most Holy Redeemer have been asked to leave the Christ Church Diocese. Acutely aware of my responsibility to support the liturgical and sacramental life of all the faithful, I am making a new provision for the pastoral care and celebration of the Eucharist and other sacraments for the traditional Latin Mass community. Starting 21st July 2024, that would be this Sunday, the traditional Latin Mass will be celebrated weekly at Kaya Poi. Sacraments will be coordinated through the bishop's office. Any correspondence regarding this should be addressed to, and then there's an email. This has been a very difficult time for many people, and I ask you to pray for all involved. I also ask for the support of the wider Catholic community for these measures, which have been taken for the good of the church and the faithful in the diocese. You notice something in that letter. For many people, that'll be the first thing they've heard about this. No clarification on what's happening. They were just kicked out of the diocese. It appears there's this. Yes, Patricia McGee, member for 18 months. Hello, everybody. First time here. Yes, I'm live streaming a tad later than usual. In fact, as someone else says, another channel member, that YouTube didn't notify him about this live stream. I've been keeping an eye out. God bless everyone. Well, I am live streaming a little later than usual. We pulled into town really late last night, hence the bags under my eyes. But you notice in that letter there was no definition, no clarity whatsoever. Part of the bishop's job is to provide clarity. If you're stripping priests of their duties, it's a good idea to lay out what it is they've done, because we live in a time now, thanks to Ted McCarrick and the bishops who enabled him, that many laity will hear that priests are being punished for something and immediately go to the worst. You really need to tell us what's going on. No, I'm not implying that they did anything of that kind either. Now, that was the bishop's public letter. As one viewer of this channel told me a few days ago in their email about this, this is basically a humiliation of not only the priests involved in the story, but also of the church in general. The community goes from having access to the traditional mass daily to having access to it only once a week, and only then because the bishop made special arrangements to have the traditional mass weekly. No allegations against the priests have been made public, only vague insinuations. And actually, that's the point here. Just accuse them of being evil in some vague way, say that their teachings are bad without ever saying what it is that's bad about them, and then dupe the laity into thinking there's a real problem by sending a bishop for an apostolic visitation. Now think about this. You know why they're being vague? Imagine they say, well, they're teaching against religious liberty. And well, the problem is if they actually say what they said and then they claim the church doesn't teach what they said, if it turns out that the redemptorists in the story are just teaching what the church taught all the way up into Vatican II on the subject, you open a can of worms there. Because if they're teaching something that the church always taught that is suddenly out of vogue with Rome and has been for a while now, they can actually show that there's an actual serious problem in the church. They're not going to tell you what they taught. If they were, doing what the followers of Father Feeney said, which is, for those who don't know, it's alleged that Father Feeney denied baptism of desire. Okay, complicated story, but he was excommunicated for this, I believe, in the before Vatican II, but not long before Vatican II, and that was actually kind of the beginning of people who were thought to be too traditional getting crushed by Rome. Again, that's Father Feeney's story is much more complicated than what I did here, but they almost never go into what the teaching conflict is. They did with Father Feeney, but they didn't do it with pretty much anybody else after Vatican II. And the reason you see that is because you start getting this problem of being shown for everyone in the whole world to see that what was once taught by the church, in some cases, is no longer taught by the church. And for whatever reason, they're afraid to actually lean into that. They're afraid to confront this problem that they've created for themselves. Now, I'm going to compare this to, well, any of the groups of nuns that have been crushed by Rome that I've covered on this channel in the past couple of years. When they are suppressed, it usually follows a similar pattern. The media reports that someone complained to the diocese about the rigidity of the nuns. Sometimes there are accusations against them saying that they're not keeping their vows of chastity or some other reprehensible attack against them. Then we get allegations that they have schismatic tendencies. Then the bishop appeals to Rome to intervene, which they do in the form of some very suspicious bishops investigating the community. Go look at Bishop Strickland for that case. They found the worst possible bishops on a moral measure to investigate him for being schismatic. And then, without fail, the community is charged with one form of schismatic tendency or another, typically because they teach the old faith and not the new synodal religion, at which point the bishop acts against them. It's been the constant playbook of the modernists in Rome that at this point it's almost routine to see it happen to the sons of the Most Holy Redeemer in this case. The secular media is reporting on this as well, at least in New Zealand, refusing to give details about this because they don't have to give them. I'll show you here an article. It is so short that I wonder why they bothered publishing it. Gloria TV publishes longer articles than this. If you're familiar with Gloria TV, you understand why that's kind of ridiculous. The headline from RNZ, which is a New Zealand news outlet, is here right there on your screen. Who are the sons of the Most Holy Redeemer? Published last night in New Zealand. This article doesn't give details. They don't have any to give. They have no more details to give than I gave you. In this article, they use the word abuse rather liberally to describe what the religious in this are said to have done. But remember, that word is connected in this case not to Ted McCarrick issues, but their teachings and use of unauthorized, as they call it, exorcisms. I've seen this same allegations made by very bad people against Father Ripperger, who is often taken to task for teaching uncomfortable truths taught by the faith before the revolution of Vatican II. And as he'll tell you, there are multiple levels of exorcism, not all of which requires the permission of the bishop to do so. But it could very well be that the laity who reported this just saw the word exorcism used to describe something, some prayer ritual that was being done, went to the bishop, and do you think new bishops are taught about pre-conciliar forms of exorcism? I would doubt it. So in this case, we need more information. What do they mean by exorcisms? What do they mean by throwing that abuse word around? What do they mean by all these things? They never tell you. They refuse. And the bishop's not going to provide the information here. So the sons of the Most Holy Redeemer are kicked out of their diocese, and we just got to take the bishop's word for it. And normally, we should be able to take the bishop's word for it. But unfortunately, we don't live in times where we can do that anymore. All right, folks, I'm going to keep this short here because of the internet in this town that I'm in for this morning is terrible. Raven Ray, who is from the Philippines, says the Redemptorists have gone through trials in their history. St. Alphonsus was removed from his own congregation after he was tricked into signing a document that changed their rules. Yeah. I do kind of wonder if they're basically being a traditional version of the Redemptorists and then taking St. Alphonsus Liguori as their patron is part of how this happened. Like, it's not like, I don't mean that in a weird kind of way. I just think that that this level of spiritual warfare was brought onto them was a natural consequence of taking one of the great saints and doctors of the church and making him their patron and dedicating themselves to a traditional way of living according to his rule. Yeah, Sandra, I'm going a little later than usual, and I've noticed in the last couple of days since a certain convention in the Midwest in the United States started that my analytics have crashed, and I suspect that has to do with our lovely and totally fair and free host trying to keep people from talking about certain things, even though I don't talk about those things on this channel anyway. Amy says she gave up on notifications. Yeah, and I'm traveling right now, so I can't post everything to my sources page as usual. But I'll be back at home this evening. So starting tomorrow, we should be back to normal on that stuff. You could follow returntotradition.org as a good backup, but you won't be able to see the live shows live. You'll see them later. But like I can tell on a story like this, I should have about another 100 viewers at this hour watching, and I don't. And it's because YouTube's not sending notifications to people. But I'll be having a meeting with my YouTube contact who here in the next few days, and hopefully they'll get that straightened out for me. Nolo says he was late. Well, I was late late too. So, and we rolled into town pretty late last night after 15 hours on the road. Um, Philip says, does anybody know the status of the IBP dialogue over liturgy, ecumenism, religious liberty, collegiality, modernism at the Ecclesia Day Commission? Anybody knows the answer to that, feel free to answer. But although I'll be wrapping up here in a minute. Thanks, Richard. Well, we have a much shorter drive today, so we should be fine, but it'll still be late in the day that we're getting back in. T-Moss is watching everything get dumbed down. Yeah, well, that's kind of what it feels like too. What's the unspoken part of this synodality nonsense that we have going on in the church right now is it all feels very dumbed down with the reason that we're expected to have as Catholics being replaced by emotivism and emotion, this personal experience nonsense. Yeah, there's a personal experience side to faith. It really is, but reducing the faith to your internalized experience is a dumbing down of the faith. It truly, truly is. Tim Oz says that's a long drive. You may have seen my post before the show started in the live chat. We went through 4 states yesterday, mostly on one highway, which was mostly, except for some country back roads that we had to do a few times. Guillermo says our totally fair and free hosts are removing subscriptions and notifications in all Catholic channels in all languages. I haven't noticed that here, but I have noticed that there is things are acting weird right now. Marie says, call me schismatic if you will. I'll call myself Catholic. Don't mind unauthorized mass, private home, hotel, garage, warehouse, outdoor campsite, picnic pavilion in the woods of a half-mile church. Yeah, that might be coming for a lot of people. I don't know. We will see how things go. Any final thoughts here in the chat? No, it looks like we're good then. I will try to edit out the dead air that we had here in a moment. But until then, as always, I ask you to pray for the church and pray for anybody we talked about in a negative way in this video, including the bishops here. And personal prayers for me as we travel. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.